I'm kind of like panicking today because weather isn't right to make the video that I wanted to make. Not even like make the video that I wanted to make. Just record the parts of the video that I'm going to make, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. If the weather is, I mean, look, it's fucking beautiful. It's beautiful out there. But like, it's not, you know, look at this. What is it? I mean, it's not, like I said, it's not bad. It's beautiful. It's wonderful weather. It's just not the kind of weather that I need to do on a farm. Maybe if I drove to the other end of the bay, 'cause it almost looks like there's some breaks in the clouds up there, but like, I got hiccups. And that might be a problem, because we're trying to record, you know? But what can you do? You can only do what you can do. I'd like to try to get this done, you know, maybe on the first go. It's unlikely. I'm thinking that this is going to come out to like 45 minutes to an hour, probably like the last one. This is going to be an on-screen quote, so you know what to do. No one would argue that streaming video games is a revolutionary act. David Arditi. Subscription platforms and the unending consumption of culture. Like, what would a YouTuber sound like? You know, that's what I'm trying to affect here. What the fuck does a YouTuber sound like? Depending on who you ask, digital media is either going to save the world or destroy it. People tend to lean towards the destroy it side. It's a lot like the 90s scare about video games causing gun violence. Often, when we encounter new technologies, it's easier to be frightened and resist, to become reactionary and jump to the worst conclusions, than it is to try to understand what motivates people to act in the ways they do. Remember, it's not that Florida has unique public records laws that allow information to be broadly accessible to the public in a way that most states do not allow. It's that people from Florida are uniquely awful. I want to understand the culture of content creation, but in a way that is more particular and more useful to us than think bad or think good. I can call something revolutionary, and I can call something counter-revolutionary, but these are both cop-outs because they ignore the intricacies of human interaction. They ignore the places where things intersect and become complicated, and it is in that complexity where my interest lies. In all things we do, we are haunted by the specter of capitalism. And if I can get some kind of like Monopoly Man, maybe like a transparent Monopoly Man, I don't think I know how to do that, but it's okay. In all things we do, we are haunted by the specter of capitalism. I call it a specter because most people don't believe in ghosts, and the people who do believe in ghosts need a lot of proof before they will admit a ghost exists. And in this way, capitalism as an ideology is invisibilized, and we don't see the way it impacts everything we do and how we can and cannot think about things. So how does the specter of capitalism play out within digital media? This video will in no way be the end of this conversation, but I hope to pick up a few threads of conversations that have already been happening, weave them together, and maybe give you a new way to understand things, a way you might not have thought of before. And I'd like to do it in a way that encourages us to come to these situations with empathy, understanding, and recognition that we are all people in process, capable of growth and change. Like I state in my last video, that hurt people, and accountability must come from within. I cannot hold people accountable for the harm they have caused, but I can try to understand the broader structures and ideologies they're participating in, often without even knowing. So this won't be a call-out video. Nobody is being canceled. Call off your hordes, because I'd rather not have to batten my hatches. Because today, we are going to talk about people. And the thing is, people gotta eat. And like, sometimes, I don't know what I want to do. There's too many things that I want to do. But other times, right now, I want to do a thing, and I can't do it. And I'm freaking out because I can't do it. And like, I could do other things. I could do this. I'm doing a thing right now. This is a thing that needs to be done, and I'm doing it right now. But at the same time, there's still that obsession in the back of my mind. Like, why am I not doing this other thing? People gotta eat. The coercive influences of capital push people to behave in ways that they would not otherwise. This does not mean that people are not accountable for their actions, but rather explains the conditions of living under capitalism. In my last video, Making My Peace, Speaking My Peace, I spoke about the ways that liberal capitalism coerces us into silences. Silences which we must break by speaking our piece, to make our peace. How often we don't even understand the ways in which we've been silenced. But why? Why do we have to be silent? Often our survival is contingent upon our silence. Liberal civility politics don't just prevent us from speaking, they prevent us from speaking in ways that rock the boat or challenge authority. Stick it to the man or speaking truth to power are important activist memes because they acknowledge the silencing that occurs and they present this challenge of authority, even challenging the necessity of authority. The necessity of holding up a system in which so many of us are silenced. Even this project is going to be run through the approval of various professors in a liberal institution, so there are limits to the extent that I can voice my ideology if I want the money and time I've invested to not be a complete waste. But understanding that is important. More important is us as viewers learning to read for those silences. What is a piece of media not saying? What can't it say? What can't it do? We like to think the possibilities are endless, but there are all sorts of systems in place. The copyright system, critique from our peers, audiences, and other systems I haven't quite thought about that you can list in the comments below like they should have been obvious to me. There are systems in place to check and critique and postpone and prevent our behavior, to coerce us into making standardized projects instead of, whatever weirdness we could be making. And sure, we will still make some of the weirdness. But there is a specter, the specter of capitalism, which haunts us. Creators aren't just making fun projects, they're making content, which carries this ideology and practice of capitalism. And so when we consider the culture of YouTube or Twitch, we need to consider it with that specter in mind. In The Labor of Visual Authenticity on Social Media, Exploring Producers and Audiences' Perceptions on Instagram, Mars et al. Describe the phenomenon of the micro-celebrity. Social media enable anyone to reach large audiences, broadening users' followships out of their personal context. Regardless of reach, however, all social media use is a public performance to some extent, and thus strategic. By selecting which information and images to share of themselves, users engage in acts of performative micro-celebrity, practices which arguably amp up their popularity. Marwick describes micro-celebrity as a continuum along ascribed to achieved micro-celebrity, with the latter referring to the self-presentation strategy directed at an imaginary audience. This includes perceiving all social media connections as fans or followers, continuously live streaming the everyday, sharing personal information and fostering seemingly intimate relationships with them, as well as creating an affable brand, which offers their audiences a sense of credibility. This self-branding focuses on individual uniqueness and aims to create favorable and easily accessed associations in consumers. This includes marking out a specific niche tactic or style that microbloggers can be associated with, as well as a careful curation of various social media profiles to create a coherent public image. Mars et al. 2. Ideology is an invisible hand, a guiding force, and it shapes everything we do. Unlike legacy media, new media is structured to place production centrally and squarely on our shoulders to individualize the content process, to make each creator their own production studio, advertisement agency, and PR firm. We are simultaneously creators and viewers. We are micro-celebrities. And out of this weird mess comes a weird culture. Internet culture. Culture comes out of any social formation where people get together to do things. We can't help it. We love inside jokes and shared knowledge, and we are precisely attuned to this culture because we have very specific considerations and demands about what the cultural products that are created must look like. So, what do they look like? I was visiting my grandparents in July when Miranda Sings scandal broke, and I sat on their back porch working on a needlepoint dinosaur as I watched the 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 hour deep dives that came out one after the other going over the story. Tweet threads, leaked messages, videos of her live shows, and of course, the ukulele apology.
Take a look at what her apology video was like, because goddamn, from what I understand, it is one of the worst. I'm assuming this is going to be a decent apology, a somber one, I suspect. Okay, starts off silent. No, it's not going to be a somber one. She busted out the ukulele. Okay, so I was wrong. There's no way that this 10-minute video, 10 minutes of ukulele time? No shot. No fucking shot. She's going to put it down. She's going to put the ukulele down. Put the ukulele down.
Having fun. All aboard
the toxic gossip train. You're chugging down the tracks of misinformation. station, the toxic gossip train. You got a one-way ticket to manipulation station. Toxic gossip train. Tie me to the...
Do y'all have any idea what I'm watching right now?
So that was the thing that happened.
I'd heard of this creator before. My cousin used to watch her. Other than that, she wasn't under my radar. I didn't really care what she was doing. I wasn't particularly invested in her content or situation. But then this Not an Apology video came out, and everybody I watched was watching it. So the scandal breaks, right? And Colleen Ballinger can afford to have PR representatives and lawyers. She can afford to have people advise her on what to do and how to make it through this. Why didn't she listen to them? And I think that's what hits me every time I think about this, because the allegations are bad. The allegations are indefensible. But she picks up her ukulele and she sings about how she grooms her cat, and she calls the people who accuse her part of a toxic gossip train. Choo-choo, I guess. And like, okay, I get what she's going for. Y'all are liars and this is just weird gossip. Sure, I'm a wacky person, but it's all part of the show. I'm just a silly little guy. But why the ukulele? Videos discussing parasociality are a dime a dozen. If you want to be a YouTube video essayist, you need to make a video critiquing parasocial. It's a rite of passage, you could say. And so I'd like to take a moment to lay some groundwork for the theory of, but why the ukulele? Because it has a lot to do with parasociality, and from that, authenticity. Typically, the critique of capitalism that comes from these videos stops with the idea that content creators want bigger audiences to make more money. And this is a valid position to hold. But I want to try approaching this a different way. You will recognize the idea of commodity fetishism most clearly in those late-night commercials selling strange products that people don't necessarily need. For example, the Snuggie. The Snuggie is a commercial product designed to be a combination of blanket and sweater. It has a long blanket section that drags on the floor. It's narrow for individual use, so you need to buy two. And it has sleeves and even a pocket on some models. The Snuggie is a useless, weird item, and you already have things around your house to better accommodate any of the needs that a Snuggie attempts to fill. But you don't have a Snuggie, do you? And a Snuggie is all the rage. A Snuggie is super practical. A Snuggie can solve those rare occasions where you specifically need a sweater blanket. Cue the camera roll of several situations that you probably find laughable that have never happened to you.
You want to keep warm when you're feeling chilled, but you don't want to raise your heating bill. Blankets are okay, but they can slip and slide. And when you need to reach for something, your hands are trapped inside. Now, there's the Snuggie, the blanket that has sleeves.
I'd like to take a moment here to acknowledge that while these as seen on TV type commercials are often staged ridiculously, disabled people are typically the consumer targets. People for whom the situations where a product like a Snuggie would come in useful are not laughable or ridiculous, but actually kind of normal. And these commercials are an attempt to market this item to a broader able-bodied group. But at the same time, the idea that this product fills needs that you don't personally seem to have, and the apparent invention of time in which you might need it, this is the core of commodity fetishism. Commodity fetishism comes out of the need to sell products, even if those products are useless or harmful or silly. And this is inherently ideologically aligned with capitalist ideology that tells us that the way we can achieve things is through our personal consumption of products that allow us to achieve established norms that have been created because of societal adaptation to the product. Think back to our discussion on transhumanism in Making My Peace, Speaking My Peace. So is Colleen Ballinger trying to sell me a ukulele? No. It's important to understand that social media does not simply operate as a commodity. Sure, there are subscription services and pay models, live shows where you might be welcomed on stage to become a part of the action, or ukulele-themed merch. But for the most part, these are free-to-access services, and within this model, the user is the commodity, rather than the social media itself. And this is the first way we must understand social media ecosystems. Viewer as product. We see this in the way that creators and platforms speak about viewers, the way that they celebrate subscriber milestones with different play buttons. We, the viewers, have become the commodity, and the algorithmic view count monitoring system is an example of commodity fetishism. We see commodity fetishism in action when a creator gravitates towards a few types of content and avoids others. As on gaming, when viewers are going to make the stream or content happen. Without viewers, there would be no content. I love all of my viewers and all that they contribute, so drop a like and subscribe and at me with your fan art. Understand that I'm not criticizing these elements as inauthentic. A key component of ideology is that we do not recognize how it operates in our lives. Ideology, like any technology, often becomes seamlessly integrated into our lives and values without our outward recognition that it occurs. It's entirely possible for a content creator to be genuinely grateful for their viewers' contributions to the content, but it's also a standard that creators express these sentiments, and if they don't, they will be seen as ungrateful for their audiences or spoiled by their success. Gratuitous performance of gratefulness is a measure of authenticity for audiences who demand a humble creator who doesn't forget their roots as a nobody until the audience came and lifted them out of obscurity. And if this sounds like an unhealthy dynamic, it probably is, and we should maybe stop to think about that. About the humbling that some audiences feel the need to do to creators. About the control they feel that gives them. If I was in a relationship with somebody who told me I could only afford to be housed because of them, y'all would probably tell me to get the fuck out. But if some rando comes into my stream, donates $5, and tells me to be grateful because without that money my life would be trash and I would be nobody, that's okay. In spite of the obsession with view count and follower count, a creator's income will not necessarily correlate to subscriber or views. We only have to remember for a moment that the word adpocalypse is a word, which describes the massive demonetization of content which occurred on YouTube in 2017. These sites may also refuse to pay out creators if income thresholds are not met. Twitch. And there is always the threat of copyright claims, both valid and false, which can shut down a channel altogether. Rest in peace, Hasanabi Industrial Clips Complex. Other things which can shut down your channel altogether are gratuitous violations of terms of service. So, Colleen Bollinger sees the news drop. Scandal erupts. Those metrics are in danger. That follower count is dropping. Lawyer says to keep quiet. Anything you do or say will be used in a court of law and all that jazz. But the follower count, the metrics. And sure, the massive income loss is probably sad too, but the loss of public opinion? People really like ukuleles, right? And often, our perceptions of authenticity and our judgments about authenticity will run contrary to human behavior, much in the kind of way, right? Where we know that we all use the word and it means that we need to think about things, right? We know that, but at the same time, for something to be authentic, I tried to say it weird again. I don't know why I keep saying it like that. For something to be authentic to us, it has to be performed. New media blurs the line between viewer and consumer. Remember, a micro-celebrity. With this shift from production studios like Warner Brothers or Disney or even Netflix to your dad or your cousin or you, a shift from corporate conglomerates who can afford numbers guys and audience pre-screamings. I like that. We can leave that in. A shift from corporate conglomerates who can afford number guys and audience pre-screenings to randos with $10 and an iPhone. We see the burdens of traditional media shifting onto the individual. Twitter is a micro-celebrity making site where traditional media and new media collide. Stars in your favorite shows on Netflix today are tweeting things that will get them fired tomorrow. Your favorite YouTuber or Twitch streamer is probably tweeting up a storm and getting canceled every third day of the week. It's a shitstorm! But there are also brands on Twitter, not just micro-celebrity brands, but like Wendy's. Unlike most fast food social media accounts, Wendy's logo has a face, so it's easier to think of her as a snappy comeback slay queen, which is why, while this type of content is incredibly memeable, it's not in the way that one would think. Or actually not in the way that corporations which created these accounts would like it to be. You see, Wendy's is not a girl named Wendy who wants to sell you hamburgers, but some rando being paid lots of money to manage a social media account. The Wendy's account might even be piloted by many randos being paid lots of money. The randos might not actually be paid that good of a money. But an important designation here is that they are a corporate employee working for a corporate brand that is trying to sell you burgers rather than the kid that your cousin bullied in high school who went viral for posting a video about throwing a shoe. They are run by a real person, but they are not a real person. This is a weird form of dissonance that occurs when things are both and but also neither nor. And we understand this both and neither nor because we are people of the internet, cultured individuals with peculiar tastes. This brand is trying to be #relatable. But we perceive that this attempt is shadowed by a corporate schema tainted by the desire to sell us shit. This damn Twitter account is trying to sell us woke burgers. This is a #ad, and we all hate ads. When we describe a character as queer-coded, we typically have an understanding that queer people are going to look at that character and think, yeah, that's pretty gay, man. But part of this is not the performance of queerness. The character is not labeled queer by the author, but rather the performativity of queerness that the character engages in. In Gender Trouble, Judith Butler describes the performativity of gender. Gender proves to be performative, that is, constituting the identity it is purported to be. In this sense, gender is always a doing. Butler, 33. It is easy to look at this from the perspective of performance. These are, after all, performed acts for a Twitter audience. But performativity is not about the things we do, but rather the things we are. Celebrities are one of those first groups, maybe not one of the first groups, but one of the major groups, where we try to judge their authenticity. Harry Styles is assigned male at birth. He is ostensibly a cis-het man, and he's wearing a dress. That seems inauthentic to us, because that's not really what we expect from a dude. Like, bro, you're wearing a dress? Like, and then people, the astute people in the chat will be like, excuse me, kilts are basically skirts. And like, okay, but like in the US, we don't really wear kilts. Maybe not just in the US, but like, you know, kilts are the exception to the rule. Okay? Let's just leave it there. Kilts are the exception to the rule. And we can see this rule play out in the judgment of Harry Styles. Because Harry Styles, he's a cishet male, he's wearing a dress, those two things don't make sense. So, like, actually, maybe he's not a cishet male. Maybe he's, like, gay. But he's not actually, like, being gay and, like, you know, performing gay. He's not, like, in a relationship with a man. So, like, he's not authentically gay. So, like, Harry Styles wearing a dress is actually lying to us. Because he's not gay, he's not trans, he's a cishet male. And so, he's not behaving according to these expectations of the cishet male, so that's inauthentic. But he's also not behaving according to the expectations of a queer trans person. So that's also inauthentic. So people aren't really sure what to say about Harry Styles. And that's where we get shit like, you know, people like Harry Styles are queer-baited. There is an incongruence which comes out when our audience perceives that we are not the identity that we are performing. And we see this with Wendy's. Wendy's is not authentic. Authenticity as a concept is commonly used to elevate the genuineness and originality of objects or individuals. A constructivist perspective acknowledges the social construction of authenticity and investigates how it is assigned, staged, and performed. Thus, it does not assume authenticity exists objectively, but instead focuses on the relational aspect of social negotiations. The aim is not to evaluate the authenticity of an object or person, or the truthfulness of the claim, but to understand how authenticity is used by producers and perceived by consumers of cultural products. With increasing commercialization, authenticity has become the core narrative to overcome the perception of a mere profit orientation across all fields of cultural production. Translated to the logic of the entrepreneurial self, discourses around authentic behavior comprise the contradictory goals to find one's true self, while at the same time commodifying oneself as an object. Mars et al. 2. So, does this explain the ukulele? No, but we are getting closer. But also, it's not about the ukulele. It's about the cultivation of commodities, audience. And audiences hate ads, but audiences love things that are #relatable. They love it to death. Like that guy from the Eminem song, Stan. When I describe my research, people often reply with the idea of 15 minutes of fame. But 15 minutes of fame is temporary, and after those few minutes, the person is rarely seen in media again. They are rarely immediately accessible to mass audiences who want to personally speak to them. Even after the virality of the video has worn off, the creator who posted it will still be accessible to that audience. Not necessarily personally accessible, but you can comment on the videos, send them DMs, or find a variety of other ways to at them and engage with them, even if they never engage back. Stan. And these methods are all readily encouraged and made accessible by the platforms. You can turn YouTube comments off, but the standard is to have them on. Creators even face criticism for turning off comments or deleting comments. My free speech. You're violating my free speech. Most of the creators we enjoy the most appear to be as accessible as a friend that we would send a text to. And that is where things get complicated. Way back at the beginning of part 3, I told you about the burdens of traditional media being shifted to individuals who now act as their own production studios. Out of this comes authenticity labor. Entrepreneurial micro-bloggers therefore turn to authenticity labor to overcome some of the tension between having to brand themselves and their promotional work to sustain their business. Entrepreneurial micro-bloggers therefore turn to authenticity labor to overcome some of the tension between having to brand themselves and their promotional work to sustain their business, and the need to portray themselves as genuine in order to connect with audiences. This reiterates the increasing use of authenticity as an important value in the attention economy and its oxymoronic coupling with marketing practices. If you've noticed that I'm doing funny voices, that's because all of my funny voices come out when I've had a little bit to drink. Well, we could like rebrand. We could rebrand to like the drunk video essayist. I don't even drink. Authenticity labor is an investment in realness and relatability. Sure, you're a multi-millionaire now, but you're so down to earth and relatable. Sure, you have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of fans, but I could call you in the middle of the night for life advice. You gotta stay humble and be grateful. And if it sounds like I already said something about this, well, yeah, I did. Fans don't recognize boundaries. There is both performativity and performance of authenticity in these digital media ecosystems, which couple and combine and spit out a new iteration of a tale as old as time, parasociality. I think we all understand the concept of parasociality, but often our understanding comes from the most extreme forms. Eminem Stan. The people who think they are the creator's best friend, who think the creator not responding to their comment is a personal slight. The people who send messages about how the creator is personally slighting them because they have ignored the previous messages they sent. Parasocialists are kind of scary.
This is the part of the broadcast where I tell you a little bit about personal news, about what's going on in my life, about what's happening in the world, what's happening in the universe, what's happening in the universe of Hasanabi for the most part. You know what I mean? This is the part of the broadcast where I tell you about my personal news. And honestly, not much has happened.
But at the same time, we engage in parasocial behavior all the time and in all different degrees. In Theorizing Development of Parasocial Engagement, authors Riva Tukachinsky and Gail Stever bring together research to propose a model for understanding parasocial relationships. PSRs, parasocial relationships, are conceptualized as a generalized emotional and cognitive involvement with the character that can occur outside the context of any particular media exposure situation. Tukachinsky and Stever 297. When I think about which creator I'm going to watch this morning as I make my coffee and prepare to work on my project, the amount of noise I want to be hearing, the amount of movement and brightness of color I want to see, whether I'm going to have to read subtitles to understand what's happening, or if I need something that is non-linear so I don't need to pay attention to a plot or storyline. All of these considerations are being made over specific people who offer specific types of content. I'm familiar with the content they offer, and I have expectations about what content they will continue to offer. And I make those judgments as I pick out what to play, and I make those judgments as I select a variety of videos and set up my playlist for the day that will play as I go through my work. According to Tukachinsky and Stever, these judgments come from a place of parasocial engagement, where my awareness of a creator comes from a relationship that has been cultivated between myself and the creator, a relationship where I know things about them. And on their end of the relationship, they try to guess things about me. Do I like ukuleles? Not really. But there are probably audiences who do. And a creator will know which audiences like ukuleles and which ones don't. Which is weird to think about. But creators have spent time collecting and monitoring and observing their audiences, obsessively engaging with them and drawing out what they come to a platform or channel for. Personal branding isn't just for the creator to stand out from a crowd, but how a viewer will know who to go to, what is being offered, whether or not ukuleles will be involved. And this doesn't mean that your creator knows you. They definitely don't. But they have a viewer composite, and it maybe contains little bits of you, like that weird comment you left last week when their microphone was making whoosh noises. Cut that out. You know who you are. I think it stopped raining. It's still fucking cold. It's freezing ass cold out here. I have a sweater on. But yeah, I want to think about these things, right? I want us to have them on our minds as we take this deeper. Because we're going to take this deeper. Because there's going to be way more to this video. I think I got about like 40 minutes of footage maybe. But this video is I mean, the footage that I have right now, the groundwork that we're kind of laying here is the question of authenticity. Part 5, genre. Now I'm going to step on some toes here because there are some people who would call digital media like YouTube genres and the content categories subgenres. And I get it. You're old school. New technologies are scary because of their complexity. And if you dip a toe into the vast variety of content available, you might actually realize the only way you can experience the snorkel retreat you signed up for is to dive right in. The concept of discourse community has been one of the most hotly contested notions in the field, subject to the range of, by now, well-known critiques that claim it is too utopian, hegemonic, stable, and abstract. Devitt et al., 541. You are involved in many discourse communities, groups of people who share assumptions, values, and language, but specific language, memes. In making my piece, speaking my piece, I spoke about my own personal memes that I create and understand. These memes constitute me as a discourse community of one. But as those memes spread throughout my social group, my friend group, my fellow students and professors, those memes become part of a discursive body of knowledge that we share and we become a discourse community. Discourse communities are complex. We are involved in many different discourse communities at once, and we use different language to mean the same thing in those different communities. And I'm going to talk about that in my next video. Yeehaw, motherfucker. But what is important to understand here is how discourse relates to genre, because out of discourse communities, genre arises. If we consider discourse communities a way of speaking, thinking, doing, then we can understand genre as a product of these ways of speaking, thinking, doing. The problem with studying discourse communities is the process of sifting through the massive quantities of information gathered and attempting to stake out some analytical claims. Devitt et al., 542. This is where genre comes in. Genres represent somewhat stable categories around which we can organize our ideas about discourse communities. When I point to apology videos or tweets written by corporate accounts, I'm not just finding pithy examples and constructing a narrative, although narrativizing does constitute a genre and is part of a discursive body. I'm analyzing the cultural products of a discourse community and picking out the assumptions, values, and language. Now, this language is going to be very accessible to my colleagues, but probably more difficult to parse for people who are not engaged in English or literary studies. And that's okay, because I don't really like it either. Because I, like you, probably, am a vibes-based scientist. And we intimately know the discourses of these communities, even if we don't always recognize them from the perspectives of the outsider. And it is this insider-outsider perspective that I would like to think I bring to the table. So as an outsider, I can say that, broadly speaking, there is YouTube and Twitch culture. YouTube and Twitch discourse communities, same thing. But I can also say that there are many sub-communities within that culture. And while all YouTubers and Twitch streamers are people, and they gotta eat, they all decide to bake their bread different ways through different discourses. On December 6, 2021, FD Signifier put out the video Break Bread, and I'm gonna be real. This video probably doesn't happen if that one was never made. Because what Break Bread told us is that there's a whole other world of creators who are just not being seen. But first, genre. This is about genre. BreadTube, also known as LeftTube, is an umbrella for all the video essayists out there who are video essaying about lefty stuff. Leftist assumptions, values, and language. So BreadTube is a discourse community, and out of this discourse community come the cultural product of the video essay. And I'm too tired to talk about the video essay, so here are people who can explain it to you.
Envisage, if you will, the video essay genre, those educational blights, stains, if you will, upon the traditional academic scene. Sorry, I meant subversive critics utilizing traditional academic frameworks in order to commentate on popular culture. The ink is smudging on my hand, it's getting kind of hard to read.
Video essays are made by a broad variety of creators from different backgrounds and experiences. At least they appear to be on my dash, but I follow a fuck ton of people, especially smaller accounts who don't have much following yet. At the time though, I didn't, and I didn't because the YouTube algorithm was mostly promoting white men to me. Yay! The algorithm is very good at recognizing discourse communities and genre, and it's even better at narrowing those genres down with greater and greater specificity. And one of those specifics is race. And in this way, the YouTube algorithm doesn't just promote discourses and genres to you, It creates them. Which is why we can have a BreadTube. You know, white people making video essays. And then we can have a reaction to BreadTube. And now we have a cornbread tube. Algorithms are primarily built by white people, and white privilege acts as a form of silencing and erasure within our society because white privilege erases the need for white people to consider the experiences and needs of people of color. And so when algorithms are designed, people of color are often left out with disastrous consequences. Algorithms of Oppression: How Search Engines Reinforce Racism was written by Safiya Umoja Noble, and the necessity of the book was made clear when Noble was Googling black girls to look for gifts for young girls in her family, and the first results were censored. I censored. It's a moment of self-censorship. Shut up. Noble 3. This issue is tied to systemic issues in tech. Tech is a white boys club. We've seen this time and time again as accusations come out against companies like Blizzard, and every time people are so surprised when the scandal breaks. Like, I'm sorry that you think it's surprising that a bunch of dudes who romanticize their business as starting in a garage with the best bros in 2005 would have trouble transitioning to an office workplace environment that promotes a culture of respect. Broski. Just 10 years ago, they were calling each other the F-slur as they played COD on Xbox Live. And sure, people can grow and change and become polite, decent office workers. But we have a problem of sexism in our society, and office culture is known for its discrimination and sexism against women, especially women of color. So why are we surprised every time? Like, for real? Call it white privilege or male privilege. People who have privilege just don't have to see this stuff, even when it happens in front of your eyes. And so when FG Signifier was like, BreadTube has a white problem, I was here for it. And I was ready to be part of the solution by taking control of my Dash and seeking out those creators who were suspiciously absent from it. After Break Bread, something changed. And maybe it was always happening, I just didn't notice it before. But BreadTube was scholarly adjacent work. People were flying solo, grinding themselves to the bone, getting meticulous and obsessive about their work. I'm not saying those parts have changed. CornbreadTube has all the rigor of scholarly work, but it doesn't have the alone. You see, the thing that changed, even if it was just from my perspective, was the collaboration. After Break Bread, I noticed, first of all, the creators were pointing more creators out to me, which was amazing. But even more, creators were referencing other creators, inviting them on to speak. There's this cool new element of the Left to Space discourse where creators will bring in other creators and hang out podcast style for an interview and cut those podcast interviews into the body of their work, which I think is the coolest way of citing a source I've ever seen in my life. This type of citation actually inspired my previous work on my Reading Rainbow, but Gayer series, where I attempted to nest edits within edits to build up my analysis out of my reactions to texts I'm reading. And so sure, we can call YouTube a genre, but when we understand that genres are symbolic of discourses, that's when we have to give things a little more complexity. When we have to dive into the discourse and understand what's being said. Do a vibe check. Suss out the assumptions, values, and language. Because even in that delineation from BreadTube culture to CornbreadTube culture, we see the values changing from solo work to collaborative work, lifting everyone up together. It's impossible to lift yourself up by your own bootstraps. But when people climbing the ladder, or walking up the stairs, or crossing the bridge, reach back to help people behind them come up, we all get to come up together. While some really great things have come out on BreadTube, YouTube still has the algorithm problem. One of the major critiques of Break Bread was the white guy problem. But this problem isn't just a problem of white guys. It's a problem of discourse and genre. It's a problem of how the algorithm recognizes discourses and genres and narrows those genres down so the whitest faces are the ones showing. And while it would be neat and easy and even practical to leave the issue there and say that YouTube has a racism problem, end of story, I think we can get more out of this. But YouTube does have a racism problem.
And it's this expectation of authenticity, right? It's this critique of the performance of authenticity. It's the identities that go into play when we are considering a person's identity or authenticity, right? It's all about identity. It's all about the performance of identity. It's all about how other people are registering our external selves and weighing and measuring those conflicting external selves against one another to try to understand us or typecast us. Because ultimately, what we as humans all want to do is relate to one another. Relationality is not just the ways we are the same. Relationality is the ways we are different. And in our society, far more emphasis is placed on the ways in which we are different. Far more emphasis is placed on how we can be divided apart, rather than what we have in common. And so, when it comes to the question of authenticity, when you're watching a video and you're making these judgments based on authenticity, you're not actually asking, what do I have in common with this video, the person in the video that you're watching? I mean, you are asking that, but you're not just asking that. You're also searching for those moments of like, or like, or eh, where you're going to say, we don't have those in common.
$10,000 every day you survive in a grocery store. 7 days stranded at sea. Train versus giant pit. World's deadliest laser maze. What do all these titles have in common? Well, they're titles, first of all, I guess. But they're titles from a particular creator. Mr. Beast! Well, it has become de rigueur to critique Mr. Beast for doing charity because charity bad. An argument which I am not going to get into now and will never, because y'all should know better than to engage with this silly type of shit. I do want us to take a moment and think about these titles. They sound really cool, don't they? Kind of exciting, probably dangerous. What if somebody, like, died? Or was, like, really uncomfortable? But then they won money! Oh my god! Game shows have existed since reality TV has existed, starting with the reality TV show Cops, where regular people were out there playing the game of life, and then a bunch of cops showed up to chase them and beat them to a pulp, and we were meant to be entertained by this. Yay! But reality TV didn't just stop there. You see, people are broke, and people gotta eat. So let's give people some money to eat. But first you have to drink this pig intestine milkshake. Yummy. Before Joe Rogan was a weird podcast guy, he was the host of Fear Factor, a show where people did disgusting things, dangerous stunts, and more disgusting things for money. And I'm pretty sure that under some kind of international convention or law, if you did these things to people who hadn't signed 300 pages of consent forms, you would be in jail for torture right now. Because people gotta eat, and sometimes we do wacky things so we can eat. It's all very Squid Game, isn't it? You see, engaging in activities that a court of law would consider torture is par for the course of American media. And I'm sure we aren't alone, because Squid Game is a South Korean show. But it's not the torture itself, it's the title. We're all familiar with clickbait. You see a title and you can't resist, and we are all familiar with clickbait. Click, 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 click. Oh, fuck, You see a title and you just can't resist, and now some girl named Bethany keeps sending you emails about hot singles in your area. Probably shouldn't have signed up for the sketchy clickbait website mailing list. Click, 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 click. Oh, fuck, But that was then, and this is now. And you have a new email that will get leaked in a big tech data breach, so Bethany can find you and renew your acquaintance with those hot singles in your area. Clickbait titles are most often associated with the experience of clicking on the bait and then realizing the bait was in fact a lie. Click, 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 click. Oh, fuck, But in reality, we live in an attention economy where we are the commodities and corporations need us. They love us. Bethany and the singles need us too. So bad. Just like so bad. They need us. Email them back. Click the link. It's a scam. It's a scam. They're gonna get your credit card information. Anyway, and they want us to spend as much time possible looking at their shit so that their shit can sell some other guy's shit, because everybody got into drop shipping to afford college. And so here we are, in a day and age where we can't just, like, look at stuff. No, we are looking at the wackiest, zaniest, oh my god, you didn't think he would do that shit ever. In high school English, they told you your essay needs to have a flashy title and a hook, and some people took that too far. And now here we are. Believe it or not, reality TV is actually boring, and not much happens, and those flash forwards between commercial breaks really try to convince you that if you stick around a moment longer, things will happen. And then you stick around through the commercials and you find out that nothing happened. Or something does, but you see an interview after the non-disclosure contract expires, and the people on the show tell you everything was fake. Let's be real. Our reality is kind of boring most of the time, which is why we want to watch other people's realities, because we assume everyone else is living a more exciting and fabulous life than us. And they aren't. So everything we know is a lie. And also YouTube is like reality TV if you were the desperate producer and the actors and the film crew and the editors all at once. It's a tall order. But understand that we are seeing genre in action here. We are seeing assumptions, values, and language in action here. We assume we need audience. We value attaining capital at any cost. We speak in the language of clickbait. And that is a crass oversimplification. I'm dying. Help. Call 911. I'm okay. And that is a crass oversimplification, but it gets at the core of why YouTube is so YouTube.
So authenticity, the question of authenticity, the question of are you real or are you fake, is always something that's going to come from outside. Because anything that I think inside myself is authentically me. Because I am not a single identity or a single personality. I'm this weird, mushy, electrical signaled blob that exists inside my like skin suit, you know, inside the inside of this fleshy suit there is a skeletal structure, right? And inside the skeletal structure of my head, right, inside my skull, the skull slot, there's my brain, right? And the gooey brain is like the essential core of me. And the essential core of me is this chaotic, weird, noisy thing that just never shuts up. Both like me and the talking right now, like I am talking right now, but also the all of the questions and all of the anxieties and all the weird. And that is only ever capable of being authentic, because there's no way that you can actually, like, you can try to lie to yourself about things, but you can't really lie to yourself about things, right? And people will bring up, like, you know, what is it, there's a word for it. Put it on the screen or something, maybe. Cognitive distance. People will argue cognitive distance.
In December of 2017, Logan Paul uploaded a video of himself in Aokigahara, Japan. I'm not going into specifics, but if you want to know, I think it's only fair to give you a content warning for suicide. This video is an example of the extreme side of things. Most YouTubers are not out doing this type of thing, but at the same time, when you are in a culture of doing the most extreme wacky shit you possibly can, and this culture has a habit of encouraging you to exploit your own needs and well-being, it isn't a very large jump from apathy towards yourself to apathy towards others. Alright.
And a new series of travel vlogs he named Adventures in Tokyo. You know where I'm going with this. Deciding to take a trip to Japan in late 2017, Logan and his friends were determined to use their vacation to
Now that I've been to Japan, what this piece of shit did in Japan is so fucked up, okay? It's even more fucked up, even more unforgivable.
Asia as a gold mine of new content. And none of it has aged well.
Thanks for letting me touch your dog. Okay. Tokyo!
I can't unshake my content skull. Like, every step of the way, I feel like Logan Paul, if he didn't push it to the next fucking level by doing like unimaginably cruel and fucked up shit, would have been still a majorly successful content creator without any of the fucking controversy.
As if laying in front of cars and running around town waving dead fish in people's faces wasn't enough, we haven't even gotten to the paramount moment of the trip. A very notable installment of the Logan Paul Japanese saga uploaded on December 31st, 2017. Now, I remember the day this video came out, and I actually watched it over on his channel before it got taken down. The video was not only live for over 24 hours, but even trended on the main trending tab before anyone really asked any questions, which means the millions of kids within Logan Paul's audience at the time didn't think it was bad to film a dead person. As expected, the entire YouTube community took up arms against the guy they finally had a good excuse to hate. I don't think there was a single person defending Logan Paul over the age of 6.
In digital discourses, we call this the NPC trend. NPC is short for non-playable character, a term used to describe the people who are not the player character in video games. NPCs are the people in the background who blend into the world and make it look full. They don't do much because that would distract from the main character who is doing important things. And when we consider this in correlation to the Logan Paul thing, it starts to make sense. People in the background of videos we record in public aren't us. They are background characters. But also, people who aren't me I record in my videos aren't people. They are NPCs I can interact with. Think man in the street interviews, a popular YouTube and live streaming genre. You see, our society already has an empathy problem. Call back to white privilege and male privilege. And so the content that people create reflects this. Which is why somebody can do that and have 23.6 million subscribers today. I'm not canceling Logan Paul. Like, for real, I'm just not. But we need to see this as symptomatic of a larger process, a larger ecosystem, an ecosystem where how we treat others is reflected in how we think about ourselves. Think back to Sonia Renee Taylor's "The Body is Not an Apology." Shame comes from a place of denying our needs. And when we deny our own needs, it's easy to deny others theirs. This is why it's important to read for silences. A creator participating in these cycles most often cannot break away from them and retain their popularity, their followers, their income. And so there is an incentive to keep making this type of content and to spiral deeper and deeper into weird and inappropriate and downright offensive shit until they reach an invisible boundary or someone speaks out and people tell them to cut the fuck out.
Actually,
You know,
encore.
I feel like maybe I should let you guys know something. It seems like maybe you're confused about something. I don't know. Let me try to help. Sometimes people make a mistake and it doesn't make them a horrible person. Whoa. Sometimes people can make a mistake and they're still a good person. Crazy, I know. Sometimes people can make a mistake and you don't have to take that mistake, oh no. And twist it up and grind it and add some lies to it and pulverize it and stab it with knives and ruin a life and oh no. Sometimes people can make a mistake. It doesn't mean you gotta send them hate, oh no. Sometimes people can make a mistake and you...
Okay, here's what I don't get, right? And some people in the chat are pointing this out too. Did she make a mistake?
No, she didn't.
Or are they just rumors?
Yeah,
because if they're just rumors, then if they're rumors, then why are you owning up to it as a mistake?
It's weird to have like 10 minutes and be so vague the entire time, like not really address a single thing.
I pray no woman ever talks inappropriate online to your kids. They have trauma from it. Their abuser writes them a song and says it was a mistake. Yeah, really? What the fuck?
Oh, where do you need to go?
Some of the Colleen Ballinger accusations came from people who were at the live show, people surrounded by parents and children who thought nothing was wrong, who thought everybody was having fun, who didn't realize that something awful had happened until they had a better way to understand their experience and the negative emotions that came from it. And this is the culture of content creation. Content creation, as opposed to creation, focuses on content with a capital C. Is something going to push the boundaries? How far can we push the boundaries? Can we push them even further? The problem is that sometimes the boundaries break. And if we don't do the work to acknowledge that breaking and repair trust, then we're caught in the situation where boundaries keep getting broken and we keep sucking it up and holding it in. And if it almost sounds like this could be said about a lot of things, that is a good instinct. Consent isn't just the absence of a no, it's the presence of a yes. Not just in sex, but in all areas of our lives. And when we allow minor violations of consent, even in things like who is recording me as I'm living my life in a public place, these violations compound until we have situations that we cannot resolve or heal from. And that hurt sits in us. It festers. We are hurt people and we will hurt people. And that sucks. And I don't really know what to do about it. Because it is entrenched within our society, within the values of our society, within that specter of capitalism that haunts us. And if we could only see it, if we could only recognize it, if we could join together and decide that enough is enough, I want this to stop. If we could only fucking realize that people gotta eat, then maybe things could change. But it's much easier to be hurt and sit with the hurt, to sit in the uninhabitable place of thorns from this bridge called my back.
This is a video on social media. I mean, not right now. Right now it's just a video recording that I'm taking in my car. But eventually one day, it might be part of a video that I put on social media, that I put on YouTube. I'm going to share the link to the YouTube video on my Twitter. And I'm going to talk about it on a stream if I ever decide to stream ever again. And so, this isn't just me chilling in my car talking about authenticity. This is me recognizing the discourses which I'm engaging with. You know, the discourses around ADHD. And those discourses aren't all academic. A lot of those discourses are just people with ADHD talking about the weird shit we deal with, right? But it's me recognizing in this moment that I am engaging with discourses. Discourses about ADHD, discourses about disability, discourses about ability, discourses about people recording videos of their cars, discourses about blogging, right? And it's not just discourses about, like, not just people talking about blogging, but people engaging in blogging. So right now, you know, I'm technically creating a blog, even though you can't see my face, which is not very authentic of me, but, you know, what can you do? But, you know, we're engaging in discourse, and a lot of times discourse isn't just the things that we say about these things, it's the ways that we are engaging in these mediums. So in order to make the video that I'm making, I bought a camcorder and I drove out to a place and I started recording the nature with my phone, and then, not my phone, with my camcorder. And I went through this series of, you know, rigging up the camcorder so it would get the good shot. You know, trying to hold it myself, but realizing it was too shaky and you need a good solid shot that isn't wiggling around a whole lot. Otherwise your viewers might get a little bit seasick. You know, I talk to you, methodologically through the different sounds I'm hearing, the different experiences I'm having, because I want you to experience this in as close a way to the way that I'm experiencing it right now, right? I'm engaging in authenticity labor, where I'm trying to make this real to you in a way that it feels real to me. So when I notice a noise, I'm pointing it out to you so that you can notice it too.
Here I am, minding my own business, doing my own shit, working hard and hardly working. And some damn conservative at some damn anti-abortion protest says the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my whole goddamn life. You see, friends, the deep state is trying to cancel babies from being born with abortions. I swear to God, what the fuck is happening to this world? Who are these people? These people are your grandparents, or your parents, or your cousin Jim, who has some really weird opinions and won't stop creating burner accounts so he can keep sharing anti-vax memes on Facebook. We know them because we see them every day all around us, and sure, their shit seems more extreme than anybody else's, but in 2009, George Tiller, an abortion provider, was assassinated by an anti-abortion extremist who was in no way discouraged by Bill O'Reilly's harassment campaign against Tiller. So we aren't really becoming more extreme, I don't think. Extremists are just engaging in different discourses and creating different genres. It's not really comforting, but it could be worse. It could be worse. Maybe it could be worse. I don't know. The thing is, cancellation is nothing new, and while the Tiller assassination is an extreme example, I need you to understand that cancellation has historically had serious material consequences for the people being canceled. And cancellation without material consequences is, in fact, no cancellation at all. There's a difference between pushback and a harassment campaign. Sometimes that difference is hard to see because we are all participating in a culture where the only way to have people understand that thing happening is to present it in the most extreme way possible. So people telling you to sit down and listen become violent mobs harassing you. On the flip side of that coin, though, we are all participating in clickbait culture where telling someone to sit down and listen isn't enough, so I've doxed you. I know where you live, and let me read you your license plate number in the DMs. It's easy to fall into extremes because so much of our culture cultivates extremes. And remember, this isn't unique to digital or YouTube culture, this is offline too. And so we need to come into this discussion with nuance. Do people often exaggerate about mild pushback? Do people often go to extremes to push back against someone who has done something fucked up? Both of these things can be true at the same time, but there are other dimensions to this discussion. In the chapter, Protect Your Heart, Femme Leadership and Hyper Accountability of Care Work, Leah Lakshmi Peepsna Samarasena describes just that, hyper accountability. A common idea in social justice culture is that if someone calls you out on being oppressive, you need to shut up, listen, put aside your automatic defensive reaction and accept what they're saying, learn from it, and thank them. This is a useful ground rule, and it works for a lot of situations. We've all seen white nonsense people crush their pearls and deny they have privilege, or cis people, or able people, or non-sex workers, or whatever. And also, people with all kinds of oppressions fuck up too and need to get told we're fucking up. But there's also a line between setting aside defensiveness and being open to hearing how we've fucked up or hurt someone without knee-jerking to, you're wrong, I'm perfect, fuck you, and letting someone walk all over you and emotionally abuse you and gaslight you. Peepsna Samarasena, 214. It's the women literally can't do anything meme. And it's a meme because typically women and femme-identified people can't do anything without facing severe criticism. Now we understand that different things are different. Sometimes, women and femme-identified people get accused of doing genuinely terrible things and decide to play a ukulele. And sometimes their hair wasn't perfect, or they misspoke, or they took a bad brand deal, or their merch didn't arrive at your house on time, or they were deliberately cornered by a person they were debating and said something that was taken out of context and is still used to defame them to this day. And if you're thinking that I'm referring to one particular incident and one particular creator and one particular debate, then you are 1, part of the problem, and 2, not realizing that there are so many other people in similar situations right now. Femmes, especially femmes of color, are subjected to hyper accountability on the internet, and this hyper accountability often comes with hordes of annoying little motherfuckers who just want to be helpful by telling you that if you just lost half of your body weight or you just stopped being so ugly or undesirable, then maybe you would have better opinions and people would listen to you. And it sounds like I'm being gratuitous in these descriptions for the sake of attention that is generated by extremes, but I'm actually talking about actual conversations I've had with actual people who actually thought that they were being nice to me and giving me actual constructive criticism. Y'all are hurt people and you're hurting people by being so nice and helpful. Understand that this is a systemic issue. It doesn't come from one person. This comes from communities of people who view the world through a lens of privilege, who don't have to consider that perhaps they are perpetuating cycles of trauma and pain, who don't see themselves as hurt people who are hurting people because this is how I was helped when I was fat and ugly and dumb and undesirable. Sad winky face. I said it before and I'll say it again. We cannot hold people accountable. Accountability comes from within. I'm thinking about all these things, right? And because I'm thinking about them, you're thinking about them now. Well, not really because I'm thinking about them, but because I'm talking about thinking about them. You're thinking about them too. And so we come to the question, authenticity. Am I talking about these things, right? Because I am genuinely experiencing them. Or am I talking about them because I'm making a vlog, and this is how you engage in a vlog. You see, there's layers, right? There's layers. Like ogres and onions. There's layers. There's layers to these things. And so in the end, the kind of authenticity that we achieve, the only kind of authenticity that we can ever really achieve, whether authenticity actually exists or not, because I would urge us to question whether one can be authentic. Part 9! This better really be really good. Why are you texting me? This better be really good. Oh, you were sleeping. That is no excuse. That is no excuse. Stop sleeping. No sleep for you. There we go. Good. This video is looking to be longer than making my piece, speaking my piece. And frankly, I don't know how that happened. But it's important. I've cut a lot I realized wasn't going to fit in here. Some of the stuff I was writing about theory, just because narratively it was driving us away from the plot. And you probably think I forgot about the ukulele. And I said this before, I can't explain the ukulele. I can't. I'm only human. I can only offer this analysis I've been doing and hope that you use it to understand the ukulele yourself. I can only tell you that we are hurt people, and we hurt people, but also we need people because people are the way that we get to eat. And more than anything, People gotta eat. We get trapped in these cycles. No matter what new technology comes and what new social formation arises out of it, there will always be these cycles. The cycles of making bread, breaking bread, realizing we need a new recipe for the bread. And some people try to blame the oven because the temperature readout is broke or the knob is kind of falling off, and the oven might be crap because it's broken or whatever. But even that oven was made by hurt people who only knew how to hurt people. The oven was made in a world where the discourse and genre of ovens is getting more people to buy more ovens, even if those damn ovens don't turn on or won't get hot. So my oven isn't broken. The whole damn world of ovens is broken, and all the ovens that will ever come from this world are gonna be broken. This sounds dire and hopeless, I know. But when we realize the level of shit we're in, when we look at the world without rose-colored lenses, that's when we can see things as they are and start to find out what we need to do to unfuck it. Do you want to be the one sending cryptic messages from a Ouija board? Or do you want to recognize where things broke down so we can build something better in its place? Stop sitting in the middle of despair. We are all going to die someday, and we don't have time to waste waiting for the right opportunity to come along and do the work that needs to be done. There are a lot of people out there who come from backgrounds like me, I think. People who say the cycle ends here, I ain't going to repeat the mistakes of my parents. And then they think those mistakes are only the mistakes of how they treat children. And this isn't a bad position to start from, but it is one that only sees the way your parents were to you, not the way they engaged with the rest of the world. And trust me, whatever your parents brought home to you, they had that same energy for the rest of the world, even if it didn't seem that way. So the first step in moving forward isn't just changing how we treat children, even though that is a vitally important place to focus our energy, but rather, the first step is to change how we treat each other. I am not your NPC, and you are not mine. I am not a faceless, nameless metric on the screen. And neither are you. We are people, and we come to communities we come to because we have needs. The need to not be alone, the need for friends, the need for something that we haven't really conceptualized yet, but we know deep down inside that is missing. We are looking for family. And we find family. But we don't find it with a content creator. We find it with the community that builds around them, the culture we build and share with them. We find it in the memes, which is why my next video is about the sustainability of memes, and I hope to see you there. Hell yeah! Oh, fuck yeah. So this recording is an hour and 32-ish minutes long, and that's okay because we're gonna do a fuck ton of editing. Whoa! Thank you and good night.